It's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So we've been talking a lot lately on lives about recent events like Charlie Kirk being shot, the horrible murder of Irena on the train. But what we're going to look at in this video is an older case, but probably one of the most famous murder cases in British history. And this was the abduction, torture, and horrible murder of Jamie Bulger. And what made it even more horrible, because this is just a little toddler who was lured away from his mum while he was in a shopping centre, while he and his mum were shopping, Denise. That's bad enough, isn't it? But what made it, of course, worse was this horrendous murder was committed by two children, two 10-year-old boys, Robert Thompson and John Venables. And this case has been mired in controversy because these two boys, they were out of prison, I think when they were 18, was it? Let's just have a look and check. Because of their age, they were released from prison very, very young, and given new identities, to go off and live their life. In June 2001, they were released. The parole board ruled that the boys were no longer a threat to public safety. Ha, ha, ha. And that was wrong for a start, because one of the boys has already been back to prison a few times. In fact, I think he may even be in prison at the moment. But the problem is, we don't really get to know. We do not get to know about what happens to these boys because their lives are, they've been given complete secrecy over their lives and their identities, etc. So, it's a horrible case. I don't know how, honestly. So the first thing I want to do before we get into this, I'm not going to talk about the actual murder of Jamie. I can't even read the details about the murder of Jamie. I tried to read them once. I got so upset. It was with me for so long. I won't be going through the details of Jamie's murder. But I just want to send I will send my prayers for Jamie, who hopefully is sleeping in the arms of Jesus. But also I want to send my love out to his family and my prayers out to his family, because what they've had to live with, and especially with the perpetrators, or at least one of the perpetrators definitely getting into further problems. He's had a new identity a couple of times. That's John Venables. But we're going to talk about the other one. It's all been a bit quieter about the other one. But now it's been said that the other boy, he's the one that you don't remember. We remember John Venables more because he's been in and out of prison ever since, and there's been, on and off news about him. But many years ago, I remember hearing the rumour that the other boy had gone to Australia. I can't find his name. I don't even remember his name as much as the other one. Thompson, that's it. What's his first name? Robert Thompson. Now, not so much was ever heard. Nothing was ever heard about him. He was released, and it seemed like I remember rumours going around that he'd moved to Australia. I remember that. But nobody's ever really talked about him. He's certainly, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, there's not been headlines about him getting into trouble again, etc. Whereas John Venables, he's been in and out of the headlines, hasn't he, for quite a long time. So John Venables is the boy on the left, Robert Thompson, the boy on the right. But I think what we have to remember about this case as well is these were 10-year-old boys. Yes, they were so very young. But what they did, it wasn't even you know, it was beyond anything that you could ever imagine anyone doing. Why would a 10-year-old? I still believe that some people are born bad, and maybe even, you know, maybe it's made worse by their home circumstances or whatever, I don't know. But lots of people have terrible home circumstances. They don't abduct toddlers, take them off. This was the iconic image, wasn't it? The CCTV. They're leading that little boy away to torture him and eventually murder him and leave his body on a railway line where it was cut in half. You know, the police who had to deal with it, you know, found the body, etc. They had to deal with trauma for years. These boys did this. You know, I still, honestly, I'm sorry, I don't care if they were 10 years old or not. Now, you know, I always think people deserve a second chance. But sorry, I'm not laughing because it's funny. You know, the second chance if they're shoplifting, even if they get into knife crime, even if it, you know, if they're drugs involved or whatever. There's lots of things that people should get a second chance for. But I don't really think luring away a little toddler, torturing him and murdering him and leaving him to get cut in half by a train on a railway track, I don't think that they ever should have had a second chance. That's my personal opinion. And, you know, maybe that's wrong. I don't know. But yeah, they were only 10 at the time. But how many 10-year-olds? They planned it as well. They went out that day looking to abduct a child. You know, they wanted to abduct a child. They wanted to do terrible things to it. There was also some sex abuse involved in this murder. You know, they put things in James. You know, they're horrible boys. Sorry. You know, and they're not a danger to society. You know, can you take that chance? Well, John Venables has shown he still is a danger to society. He's been in and out of prison. He's got involved in relationships with women who have children, and then he's still posting PDF images, etc. So are we to think that Robert Thompson, he's fine? You know, I mean, maybe he is. Maybe he is. Maybe he is no longer a danger to society. But would you want him looking after your children? Would you want him living near you? Would you want to hear that your children were going to a nursery where he was working? I don't think you would. None of us would. You know, that's the truth of it. So what I found, so this is James, of course. He's the important person in this, the most important person, or anyone else that these boys might endanger. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because recently this man, who I'd never heard of before, but very, very interesting man. I think it's Tim Edgar, his name. Let me check his first name, or is it? Oh, Bill Edgar. Bill Edgar is known as the Coffin Confessor. And what happens is a lot of people who are about to die, they search him out and tell him things that they know about crimes. Might be a crime that they've committed and they come clean. Or it may be some information they know about another crime, which is what we're going to talk about here. And they go to him. He's an Australian private investigator. They turn to him and give him the information. Well, there's lots of things they have him do. So we're going to listen to him giving a very interesting TED Talks about what he does. So, like, you know, if you die, or you know that you're about to die and you want someone to go and remove, let's say, embarrassing things from your house, not even necessarily about crime, but you may have things in your house that you don't want your family going in and finding. You know, there may be, well, I'll let him explain the things that he finds sometimes. Or there's lots of things that people who are sort of on the verge of dying, they tell him. And what he's saying, and this is what we're going to look at, is that a member of Robert Thompson's family Robert Thompson is this boy on the right. He's the one that supposedly went off to Australia. I said, I did hear that years ago, that he was reported to have gone to Australia to live, to start a new life. And I thought, oh, well, good. You know, if he manages to stay out of trouble. The other thing I heard, that he was in a relationship. He was committed in his relationship, but it was a gay relationship, you know, which is fine. You know, that's not my issue with Robert Thompson. I don't care about his sexuality. But I don't care if he's transitioned to a woman. This is what this Coffin Confessor is claiming, that a member of his family who is about to die has contacted the Coffin Confessor and has told him that he is living in Australia. He's converted to be a woman. He is now a woman, and he's working with children. And this is what he's saying. And he says, when this person finally dies, it's all going to come out. Now, he has been to the authorities. He says, we're going to watch anyway, an interview that he gave with the news item. So what do you think? First of all, do you think 10-year-olds who do things like that should be released? Or do you think what those boys did, you know, they should never have been released despite their young age? What do you think? Okay, so I want to say thank you to all. First of all, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, thank you to those of you who are members, special thanks, of course. Thank you to those of you who sent Kofis, super stickers, PayPal'd me, sent me nice messages, left nice comments. Thank you so much. Now, I'm not going to be on very long because it is number one son's birthday today, so there'll be maybe some birthday celebrations when he finally gets up, of course. So just thought I'd let you know that. But just, you know, I found this so interesting. And anyway, we'll see. Let me take my banner off. So again, hello, lovely lurkers. Thank you so much for watching. Hi, loathsome lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hi, replay crew. Thank you so much for watching. I think you're going to find this video very interesting. Now, of course, as I say, this was a crime. It was one of the most infamous crimes ever in Britain, you know, because of obviously it was a young toddler that got murdered, but it was the age of these boys, wasn't it? Just shocked everyone. People could not believe that 10-year-old boys could be capable of this. And then over the years, there's been a lot of scandal off and on, like about John Venables particularly being released, going back to prison, being released, going back to prison, etc. It's been quite quiet about Robert Thompson, really. Now, before I come in to say hello to those who are in the chat, I just need to share this video. I just need to share this video on Twitter because I forgot to do it. So if I just share it and then... Right, okay. So I'm going to say hello to those of you that are brave enough to come into the chat. Hi, Lily Paulie. Hi, Bluebell. Hi, Julie. Yeah, wait till you hear about this Coffin Confessor. It's so interesting. Very, very interesting. I'd never heard of this guy, but he's a very interesting guy, and I'm glad that I've come across him. And tell me what you think about his profession as well. Okay. So this is a news item on one of the Australian news channels, 10 News. And they've got a short interview with the Coffin Confessor.
Extraordinary claim tonight that one of the killers of James Bulger is living in Australia, has transitioned to become a woman and may have been working in childcare.
Now, for background, this was a murder in England more than 3 decades ago that shocked the world. 2-year-old James Bulger was snatched from his mum inside a Liverpool shopping centre by a pair of 10-year-old boys before he was tortured and beaten to death. His body was found beside a railway track days later. The killers, John Venables and Robert Thompson, were jailed for 8 years, then released and given new identities.
8 years.
Now, there's a suggestion that one of them, Thompson, is
8 years. Come on. So after 8 years, it was decided they were no longer a danger to society. But of course, that was proved wrong with John Venables. Now, Robert Thompson, he may have led an exemplary life ever since. Maybe, but I'm sorry, let's be honest. If you heard that he was in charge of your children or your grandchildren, you just wouldn't be happy. Shouldn't be, should it? Most SEX offenders against children, they're then put on the SEX offenders register, and they're not allowed to work with children. Why should he be any different because he was only 10 when he did it? Does that mean because he was only 10 when he did what he did, now he's safe to be around children? I think it's terrible. And the thing is that when they give this is supporting the perpetrators more than the victims, because these perpetrators, they've been given a new life, new name, new identities, probably set up with accommodation, looked after. And meanwhile, the victims, the families of the victims have to just struggle through. It's foul. So it makes me so angry. Why should they get this preferential treatment? I don't care if they were 10. What they did was unbelievably horrible. Wasn't 10-year-olds, as say, stealing, or even, just like a crime in a gang or whatever. This is a planned, sadistic SEX murder, and left a little boy just to be cut in half on a train track after he'd been brutal. Joe, and this is, I'm going to need to stop talking about the actual crime because I'll get really upset. Because this is what happened, because this little boy, he was crying, and people saw these boys with him, and they said that he was their little brother, and he did this, and this could have been stopped. Concerned people saw this little boy was crying for his mum, and they took him off and did all those horrible things to him. I can't even think about it. And then they were rewarded with new lives. Now, they've got their own guilt to live with, but it seems like John Venables wasn't feeling guilty at all. He's just gone off and done exactly, not actually killed anyone, but gone off and, been a PDF. So how do we know that this guy hasn't, still been like that? People should be aware, when you send your children to a nursery or wherever he's been working with children, you should be aware of who's looking after your children or dealing with your children. I think it's disgusting. Honestly, I do. I'm so angry about it. It makes me so upset for that little boy.
Here in Australia, and may have been working in childcare. It's information that's apparently come from one of Thompson's own relatives who doesn't have long to live.
Bill Edgar is the one making these claims. He's also known as the Coffin Confessor, revealing secrets for people after they've died. He joins us now on 10 News Plus. Bill, this is quite an extraordinary claim. What have you got to back it up?
It's taken quite an extensive investigation to actually declare that the contact made to me is actually a member of the family. And it's a case now of investigating her claims and whether the person is actually here in Australia and living as a woman. I mean, these are all, possibilities at this stage, although I'm very close, and it takes time. But this lady hasn't got that much time left, so I've got to do what I can as fast as I can before it's her funeral. So, and...
So it's a woman that's contacted him, supposedly a member of his family.
And they're the things I do. So really. It's about, granting the wishes of the deceased.
How confident are you in this lady's information, and who is this lady who's giving you this information?
Well, I'm pretty confident now, knowing who she is. Unfortunately, I won't disclose who she is at this stage. It's not for me to disclose her details. I don't disclose any of my clients' details because it's not worth them being harassed, intimidated, and coerced prior to their death. After they're gone, yeah, maybe, but it's up to them. It's totally their choice.
What's her motivation? You said that you're trying to grant her wishes. What are her wishes? What does she want?
She never wanted them released. That was the whole thing, is that she never wanted the boys released after what they'd done. She wants it out there. She wants them, the public to know, everybody on the planet.
I wonder who it is. I mean, could it be his mum? He's saying that it's part of his family, of Robert Thompson's family, this woman. Could it even be his mum? He's saying that she never wanted them to be released. Or maybe it's member more of the extended family, maybe an auntie or even a cousin or something like that. So what he's saying is she did not want them to be released in the first place. Just even looking at this picture of the train track and that, honest God, I feel myself getting really upset. And, this is, those boys, if you watch their interview, they were interviewed by the police. And they're not remorseful at all. They lied. I didn't kill the baby. I didn't kill the baby. They're blaming each other. They never, the police were traumatised. These boys weren't traumatised with what they'd done. I'm sorry, I don't care if you're 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever. You're going to be traumatised by knowing what's happened, what you've done, what they did to that child. I know children can be little shits, and, but 10-year-olds don't normally do this. Not even 10-year-olds who've been abused themselves, do they? So, it's just... this is why I've not done a video about this actual crime, because I couldn't get through it without getting too angry.
It's got a secret and a skeleton in the closet. Families have the worst. So, if she wants to let it out, good on her.
Have you made enough inquiries into this information that she's given you, or seen enough proof that Robert actually came here? Have you managed to track any of this down to confirm any of these claims from her?
I've made enough inroads and grounds in my investigation to be warned by certain judicial parties not to disclose certain things, because these characters have got, it's basically they're not allowed to be disclosed who they are, where they are.
Have you passed any of this information on to authorities, particularly the suggestion? No.
Unfortunately, I don't know if we're ever even going to know if this is true, because even if this person dies, and then he's allowed to, he says he's, now bear in mind, I'm just the messenger telling you this story that was on the news in Australia just a couple of days ago. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if what he says is true. Nobody knows. And you know what? We'll never know, because that boy is protected. Well, I say boy, he's a man now. Obviously, this is 30 years ago. He's probably 40 now. Well, say he's a man now. He's supposed to be a woman now. His identity will always be protected forever. So we probably will never know, if this is ever proven to be true or not, unless he comes out and says something. But he's not allowed to say. He's saying this, but he won't be allowed to actually say who he is, give his name and that, But he says he's been in touch with authorities, but who knows the truth? And as someone just said then in chat, I think it was Northeast. Yeah, how did he get to go to it? But I've heard this for years, right from when he was released, that he went to Australia. I think that is true, that he is in Australia, because that's always been, there's a little bit of truth in most rumours, and that's always been the rumour, if you like, that he'd gone to Australia to start a new life. He probably was assisted in that by the British government and everything. You know, it's like, just shows you, doesn't it? As you say, it's really difficult to get into Australia. You've got to, you've got to apply for your visa and prove that this, that, and the other. Oh, not him, and not if you're a child killer or a PDF. Just the British government will send you there and sort you out with somewhere to live and a job or whatever. Probably sorted out his, transitioning as well. It just makes me livid, really makes me livid. And you know what? If you're in Australia, you could well be living next door to this man. You would never know. Or a woman could be living next door to a woman who, in fact, is this man. Because I believe what he's saying. Some family members come forward to say this because they're dying. They probably wanted to say it for years. Now, I don't know if there's any money involved in it. I don't think he pays them. They pay him. So I don't think he gets money out of it. The thing is, once you're dying, you don't care what happens, do you? You don't care about repercussions, etc. And that person has probably wanted to say something for years and not been able to, but now they're sort of on the verge of death or whatever. They don't give a shit and they want to say it. I don't know. I mean, it could be a load of rubbish, but I don't think it is. Maybe you'll understand more when we look more into this guy.
That Thompson is working in childcare. This is someone who is convicted of killing a child.
Absolutely. And, the authorities should know this and be aware of this.
So you have passed it on to authorities, sorry?
Sorry, say again?
You have alerted authorities?
Absolutely.
And are authorities looking into this? Do you know if they've made inquiries themselves? Are they taking it seriously, as clearly you are?
Well, I'd say they're taking it pretty seriously because of the, not the threats I'm getting, but more so the, innuendo of being very careful of not overstepping the line, so to speak. But at the same time, these people have anonymity. So, even some authorities have no idea who they are. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem, especially if they're working in childcare.
Yeah.
Has a family member that you've been speaking to, the woman that you've been speaking to, have they been in touch with Robert while he or she has been in Australia?
Not at all, no. They want nothing to do with them, although they're still in the family frame. They have a lot of support around them particularly. I've spoken to other members of the family, distant family relatives, some that will not go on record, some that are just fearful of their own lives because of what happened and what they actually did to this child. I mean, it was horrific and people have not forgotten.
Well, Bill, some extraordinary claims there, but if there is a shred of evidence or proof, and clearly you believe that there is, and it's something that needs to be looked into.
Yeah, it needs to go to the police.
Thanks for your time tonight, Bill.
Absolutely. Not a problem. Thank you for having me, and stay safe, but die living.
So that's his saying, stay safe but die living. So this was just a couple of days. I can't believe there's not been more about this on the Australian news. Now, I have a lot of Australian chatters, and you can tell me if you have seen it on the news or not. Why has it not been all over the news? Maybe it's not true. Maybe this guy, as I say, we're going to look at the guy himself, and you can decide what you think. Is he telling the truth, or is it just, is he making it up just for attention? That's what we've got to establish, isn't it? That's what's got to be established. But anyway, I just came across this literally by accident because I follow a lot of Australian news because of, do report on a lot of Australian crime, don't I? Samantha Murphy, Erin Patterson, etc. So I follow a lot of the Australian news channels, and that just popped up on my feed, and I was like, oh my God, whatever. So let's have a look at Bill Edgar himself. So that guy, the Coffin Confessor, and a lot of you are saying you'd not heard of him. I'd not heard of him before. Let's have a look at him. something about him. So this is him, Bill Edgar, the Coffin Confessor. Where's the information about him? So Bill Edgar is the one they call the Coffin Confessor. He's a successful businessman, counsellor, author, and one of Australia's leading private detectives who's known for doing what most lawyers, accountants and professionals won't, can't or fear to do. Interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. If nothing else, it's an interesting concept. Imagine you are dying with a secret, something you've never had the courage to tell your friends and family, or a last wish, a task you need carried out before you can rest in peace. Now imagine there's a man who can take care of all that, who has no respect for the living, who will do anything for the dead. And believe me, when you watch this TED's talk that he made, see some of the things that he's done, it's, you know, if it's true, of course, you know, I'll leave you to decide if it's true. I'm just reporting on what he says, you know, and he is known for it. He's done talks, he's written books. So it's up to you to decide whether you think it's true or not. So Bill Edgar is the Coffin Confessor, a one-of-a-kind professional, a man on a mission to make good on those last requests on behalf of his soon-to-be deceased clients. And this is the extraordinary story of how he became that man. Now imagine, like, you know, hopefully it never, you know, it won't happen, but, you know, if you did know that your time on this earth was limited, are the things, I mean, there'd be lots of not quite as dramatic as this things. You know, maybe there's someone you've always been in love with, but you were scared to tell them, you know, and you'd get him to go off and tell them. Or maybe there was someone who really hurt you and you want to tell them, like, what piece of shit they are. He'll go and do that for you. You leave your instructions with him. He'll go off and do it for you, so that person gets to know what piece of shit you've always thought they were. I mean, it's quite an attractive concept, really, isn't it? How many times, you know, that you don't say anything and he's the guy who'll do it for you. So, Bill Edgar is a Coffin Confessor, a one-of-a-kind professional, a man on a mission to make good on those last requests on behalf of his soon-to-be deceased clients. And this is the extraordinary story of how he became that man. Bill has been many things in this life. He's the son of one of Australia's most notorious gangsters. I don't know who that was. Let's have a look. Let's have a look if he's on Wikipedia. He's had a checkered life, hasn't he? Is there a Wikipedia about him? Let's see. Yeah, he's on Wikipedia. Oh, no, that's another Bill Edgar. No. Bill Edgar is the one there. I can't find him on Wiki. I'm surprised he hasn't done himself a Wikipedia page. Anyway, so Bill Edgar. What does Bill Edgar do? Yeah, I don't know who that gangster father of his was. No idea. Some of you might know, I don't know. But anyway, son of, what does he say? Son of one of Australia's most notorious gangsters, homeless street kid, maximum security prisoner, hard man, family man, thief, car thief, professional punching bag, philosopher, inventor, private investigator. He's a victim, apparently, of horrific childhood SA and an activist fighting to bring down the institutions that let it happen. A survivor. Well, he's certainly a very interesting guy. Confronting and confounding, heartwarming and heartbreaking, The Coffin Confessor is a compelling story of survival and redemption, of a life lived on the fringes of society, on both sides of the law, and what can teach you about living your best life and death. That's what Penguin Random House said about him. Now let's have a look at his the talk he did on TED Talk. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you know, because it'd be interesting. Of course, none of us are going to get to see our funerals, are we? But be interesting, wouldn't it? Because people might turn up there that you know, they let you down really badly in life, and you know, how people all turn up at funerals, even though you might not have seen them for years. And it'd be quite nice to have someone stand up on your behalf and say, what are you doing here? Because you never wanted to know me while I was alive. Why are you here at the funeral? You know, I quite like the concept, to be honest, you know, because there is a lot of hypocrisy at funerals, isn't there? So this is where he's saying it started, you know, but again, you know, I'm just saying what he says. Do you know, I think it's, you know, it's true, isn't it? I'm not saying you'd have things in your house like, you know, prove you'd murdered someone or whatever, but some people will out there. But yeah, there are things that you keep, like your diaries. You know, I've got a lot of diaries. You know, I've written diaries for years. I don't at the moment, to be honest, but, you know, over years I've written diaries, journals, really, you know, written when there's important things going on in my life or whatever. Now, to be honest, my life is transparent, so I don't feel, but I've written poems, I've written stories, and, you know, they're not things that I would necessarily want my son to read, you know, because at the end of the day, to your son, to your children, you're not really, you're a mom, aren't you, or a dad. You're not really a human being that might have got up to things and, you know, had relationships. You know, I've got some quite, I often think I'm going to have a big bonfire of it all, because I say a big bonfire, it won't be that big. You know, just things that, as I say, I wouldn't want people reading necessarily. But then there's part of me that thinks, no, you know, that's part of my life, and if, you know, if it offends people, it offends people. These are things that happened in my life. I mean, it's nothing mega. It's like sometimes a little bit near the knuckle or whatever when I've been in love, or, you know, things like that. So interesting things. Or maybe I should just put them all into an anonymous book and try and get it published. You know, I don't know, but I think about it a lot. I've got things in my cupboards that I think, writings, you know, like journals, that I think, oh, you know, what we know. But I suppose if you had someone like, if you just say, look, just go in there, you leave it all there, and when you go, or when you know, this is if you're lucky enough to know that you're going to go. I mean, of course, a lot of people die by accident, don't they? And it's sudden, and you wouldn't, you know, have chance to get in touch with someone. But it's almost something you could leave as a testament, in your testament, couldn't you, to someone like him? Anything happens to me, here's the keys, get in my house, get all this stuff out. I don't want it shown to the world. You know, but you'd have to trust him, of course, to be discreet as well. Now, I don't know about you, but as he's talking here, he sounds like he's got a problem with his breathing. So I hope he's okay. Interesting that, isn't it? People asking for their mobile to go in their coffins with them. And that'll be because you won't want people to go through your mobile, will you? You know, it's just, you know, at the end of the day, these days, our mobiles are like mini computer, aren't they? We've got photos on there, we've got messages on there. Some photos we just can't bear to delete. Or you could be like me and you end up, your bloody phone breaks, and so you can't look at them anyway. But there'll be messages that maybe we want to keep. And yeah, and then when you die, you maybe won't want your family reading your mobile. You might not want your wife reading your mobile, or your husband, or your children, or, you know, because mobiles are very private, aren't they? That's why people are reluctant to give over their mobiles, because our mobiles are so much an extension of us now, aren't they? So yeah, that's desecration of a corpse, surely. You know, I don't think you could do that, actually, you know, touch the body, because that is desecrate. That is against the law, isn't it? Surely that's desecration of a corpse. Or maybe You get out of that if they've left that as their express wish, and he can get out of that with that. I don't know how that would work, but I wouldn't want anybody messing around with my body or anything like that. I'm talking about just disposing of delicate items, and like, so it's not embarrassing. I think it was Shay was just saying there about some people about, that did happen to, I had a friend, very good friend actually. I still miss him, bless him. And it's quite a long time ago since he died. And, he was older than me, so probably be in his 70s now if he'd lived, but he died. He was only in his 50s, early 50s when he died. And he was, I think I may have spoken about him on other videos. I won't say his name, but he was obviously gay. He was, obviously gay. But he had not come out. He was of a generation where people didn't come out. And he just never taught. It's not that he, went on about women or anything like that or pretended anything. He just never discussed his sexuality at all. I tried to bring up the subject a couple of times. He just wouldn't, wouldn't talk about it at all. But anyway, to me, he was obviously gay. And it doesn't matter to me. I don't, I've had a lot of gay friends over the years and still have. And, most of them are openly gay, but not this guy, because I think it was the generation he came from. It was so much more difficult, wasn't it, to be openly gay? And I think as a matter of fact, he was a window dresser in Selfridges or somewhere like that, some posh department store in London when he was in the UK. And then he came out to Spain. He looked after he had a disabled brother that he looked after. And we built up a really good friendship, and I would deal with all these sort of technical things that he needed to do for being a resident in Spain. And he would deal with anything artistic I needed doing. Like he would come round at Christmas and do my Christmas tree. Oh my God, talk about Selfridges, you never, the Christmas, because I'm rubbish with Christmas trees and that, I just like throw it up really. But he would take him 3 days to do it. It'd be perfect, all the baubles, everything perfect. It was an absolute work of art. And he did other things for me, like display things when I did exhibitions. And he would make a lot of the things that he would use. He was so artistic, and just a lovely guy. Anyway, he had a heart problem and he was waiting for a heart transplant. And while he was waiting for a heart transplant, he had heart failure and he died. And his family contacted me because they knew we were such good friends and asked me to go round and help look for his will. So we went round to the house and look, he died peacefully, just didn't wake up one morning, bless him. But he was too young to die. He was only in his 50s, early 50s. So we went round there and in looking for his will, which actually I don't think we ever found, we found a lot of, we found a lot of things that clearly he was gay. What I'd always known that he was. But for some, even with me, his good friend, he hadn't felt like he could tell me, like openly. It's a shame, isn't it, to live all your life like that in denial. Not in denial. He obviously knew he was gay, and he had forged a relationship with this young lad, but he was a little bit naive in that way, like we always felt, or I always felt, that this young lad was taking the mickey out of him a bit, like that really, because this young lad that he sort of forged this relationship with, he was only 20 or something, about 30 years younger than my friend. And you could tell that my friend was totally besotted by him because all he ever did was talk about him. But he would represent him as a friend. And then, as I say, these things that we found in his house, it was clear, that he was gay. I've forgotten why I started saying this. Oh, yeah. So that would be something that you would, for someone like him, someone like my friend, he didn't want, ever to come out that he was gay. He could have paid someone like this guy and said, look, anything happens to me, You're the first one in there. There's the keys. Get all that stuff out of my house. Because everyone's got compromising stuff, be it photos, be it, as I say, journals, or something. We've all got our little. I mean, I'm not talking like the Jamie Bulger killers. That the skeleton in our cupboard is that we murdered a 2-year-old boy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just things that they're not illegal or anything. Just maybe embarrassing. Just maybe we don't want our family to know about. We don't tell our family and friends everything, do we? We just don't. And if you do, well, there you go. It must be murder being perfect. But I think most of us, this is what they say, don't they? You've got your public life, your private life, and your secret life. And this guy is there to deal with your secret life, isn't it? It's very interesting. Are really for the people left behind more than the person themselves. Though I like to believe that people look down on their own future. I hope that's true, that they can see or feel from wherever they go, on the next level, whatever your beliefs are, if they pass on to the next, into heaven or go down to hell or wherever, or just, there's different beliefs that people have, do we just pass on to another plane, and I'd like to think that people can see the respect that people are showing them at funerals, etc. But I do think the living get a lot out of funerals, don't they? That's the purpose of a funeral, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it's funny, people will say, there was no standing room only, that, like, as a person who's lost someone, I remember when my dad died, especially, the queue, when we turned up at the crematorium where he was going to be cremated, there was a queue of people out there. My dad, he was the quietest. He never went out. He never went out anywhere except to the shops. But even the window cleaner was crying when he died because he was a quiet man. He wasn't like out down the pub, but he didn't have a great big circle of friends and this, that, and the other. But all the neighbours were there, people that, and funnily enough, his brother turned up at the funeral. We hadn't seen his brother for 20 odd years. It was very, or even more, I don't even know when the last time we saw his brother. It was very surreal because he looked very similar to my dad. They were very similar. And seeing him cry, he was crying like mad in the church. And it was like seeing my dad cry at his own funeral. It was really weird. And I didn't know this man. I was only a little kid the last time I'd seen him. And also then my dad's sister, who was what you would call a spinster, had lived with my dad's brother for years, never married, Alma. She was there, and that's the first time I ever remember meeting her, and she was quite elderly. But what I always remember is she had my eyes, or I've got her eyes, which are, it was like looking at an older version, and not so much older now, because of course this was quite a few years ago, though she was even older than I am now. But she had these really vibrant eyes, even though she was old. I'd say she may even have been 80 at the time. I don't know, to be honest. She probably was over 80. But her eyes were, just like my eyes. And that was his mum's eyes. My dad had often told me through my life, that I looked like his mum and that my eyes were like his mum's eyes. Anyway, this auntie, Alma, she had these same eyes, and it was really, I tell you, my dad's funeral was so surreal. But in a way you think, why did they come to my dad's funeral, when they hadn't seen my dad for all those years? Why? We don't really, it's one of those all families have got these buried secrets, haven't they? My family's got more skeletons in its cupboard than, medical school. It's just like there's loads of things that we don't know about or really understand. Probably like most families, to be honest. So yeah, why had and he had another brother that he'd never had any contact with, but he actually died first. So I don't know if my dad went to his funeral. He read about his death in the obituary, My dad's other brother. Anyway, so my dad's one of his brothers died. Then my dad died, and then this uncle of mine that I'd never seen for years. My dad had not seen for years. He's come to the funeral. He's sobbing like a baby, you know. But it's why had he not seen my dad for all those years? You know, there was rifts in the family. There was a lot of rifts in the family for various reasons. A lot of them were religious reasons. You know, when my dad married my mum, my dad was a Catholic, my mum was a Protestant. That was at a time when it mattered. You know, when they got married, you know, they didn't approve of my mum because they thought she was a floozy, because they lived next door to her. When my dad was away in the war, my mum was, you know, having great fun with GIs and everything, and they knew that. So when she got together with my dad, they were very disapproving of my mum. And they were real old school Catholics, you know, Irish immigrants, like real sort of, you know, so strict about everything. I remember my dad saying that they weren't even allowed to undress. They had to undress under the covers, always. They could not undress and redress. So like if they were putting their pajamas on, they had to go under the bed covers to take off their clothes and put on their pajamas. You know, that's how strict they were. It was like, you know, they were just real staunch, sort of puritanical Catholics, you know. And then God knows what they would have made of my mum, because she was like the opposite, really. But you know, it's interesting, isn't it? But yeah, he turned up. My dad's brother turned up at the funeral. And I remember thinking, why have we not seen you for like 30 years or however long it was? And he was heartbroken. He was sobbing like mad. Why did he not come? So that's a place, I suppose, my dad could have had someone like that there to say, you know, fuck off. My dad would never say that. My dad never swore. Well, he said bloody. That was the worst swear word that he ever said. He would never have said. Hard to understand. We all like animals better than people, don't we? Because that's what you learn through life is people, you know, they're not all horrible, but oh no, they've stopped. Oh, right, oh. Now, I just had an email saying my stream was interrupted, but have I gone, or can you still hear me? So you can still hear me. David's saying it's still going there. Still here. I just had an email through saying, just came through on my YouTube email. Say, let's have a look. Let me just check it. Oh, your stream was interrupted. Oh, it's on my Spanish and English one. They haven't picked it up on the Vicky Marie chats. Let's have a look. Maybe they haven't picked it up on the Vicky Marie chats. Okay. I don't think it's, yeah, you can hear me okay. I think it must be on the Spanish and English channel. So there's only a little bit left of this video. I'd like to play it till the end. But if I go off, that's why. But let's play another little bit. I'll just have to keep stopping it. Hope it doesn't get picked up. So what does he mean when he's holding up 3 fingers like that? He says, I've already lived. That's what I've got left. So is he 50? How old is he? I don't know how old he is, but his voice sounds it sounds like he's having problems breathing to me, to be honest. I hope he's okay. It's interesting. He says that's what I've got left, but I don't know what he means by that. Does he mean 30 years, 3 years, 3 weeks, 3 months?
Have you got?
I'm sorry, I have to keep stopping it now because I'm scared they're going to take it off. But yeah, we all live dying, and we do, don't we? You know, we go through our lives, and most of the time we're not really living for various. Sometimes it's for financial reasons. You know, if you've not got the financial wherewithal, you can't just go off and do whatever you want. But not only that, I think sometimes we get caught up in, what's the word? We get caught up in our routine, don't we? And we might have outside influences that restrict us, apart from, you know, monetary things. We might have family commitments that restrict us from doing whatever we want to do. There's lots of things, health reasons, mental health reasons. So I found this last bit of the video very interesting, what he says. I hope they don't, there's only less than a minute left now. Is it? Less than a minute. So I'm hoping that they won't stop. So that's interesting because, of course, Steve Irwin, I don't know the other guy, actually, Peter Brock. I don't know who he's talking about. But Steve Irwin, of course, he died. You know, he was stung by a Blu-ray, was it? Or something like that, and died. But he was doing what he loved to do, you know, and he was too young, having said that, to die, of course. But at least he died living, and that's what the point he's trying to get over, isn't it? Who's Peter Brock? Let me just have a look. I don't know who he is. It'd be someone famous in Australia, I suppose, and maybe I should know who he is. Oh, he was a motor racing driver. So Peter Brock was a legendary Australian motor racing driver, renowned as the King of the Mountain. He died in a rally crash in Western Australia in 2006 at the age 61. So what he would say, this guy is saying, die living. I get that. I do. An interesting man. You know, that's his talk that he made on TED Talks, which obviously I think TED Talks, they're going to pick me up for copyright, aren't they? As long as they don't strike me, that's okay. But that's the problem when you try and play. Hi, Joanne. When you try and play. Well, that wasn't a live talk actually that he did. But when you're on live, it's always harder to play other people's things when you're on live, because YouTube, if they detect anything, they just cut your live off completely because they don't know. You know, it may turn out that will just be reinstated. There's no, you know, no problem with it. But they just, if they detect it, if you leave it running for too long and they detect it, they'll just cut it off while they have a look at it. So that's the problem. Hi, Joanne. How are you? Ah, right. You had heard a little whisper about that, Joanne. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what he meant by that 3 that he held up. Oh, in the same week, Joanne, Steve Irwin died on the 4th of September and Peter Brock in the same week, yeah. You know, and that's it. It's exactly right what he says. Nobody wants to die. But people, you know, what he's saying is die. At least they were doing what they loved doing. You can die in a different way by not doing anything. You know, that's a slow death, isn't it? Just being too scared to do anything. There's that as well. But having said that, I don't like motor racing. I wouldn't like to swim with stingrays either. But, you know, I think Steve Irwin, really, I mean, that was a total freak accident, wasn't it? Okay, so just to finish, because some people have come in later, I think what we're going to do is have a look at the news item that started all this in the first place, just to remind people why I started looking into this Coffin Confessor in the first place. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I forgot to share it. You know, it's terrible. You know what I'm like about sharing. Don't like sharing, do I? We just watch this straight through. There you go.
Well, we're going to examine an extraordinary claim tonight that one of the killers of James Bulger is living in Australia, has transitioned to become a woman and may have been working in childcare.
Now, for background, this was a murder in England more than 3 decades ago that shocked the world. 2-year-old James Bulger was snatched from his mum inside a Liverpool shopping centre by a pair of 10-year-old boys before he was tortured and beaten to death. His body was found beside a railway track days later. The killers, John Venables and Robert Thompson, were jailed for 8 years, then released and given new identities.
Now, there's a suggestion that one of them, Thompson, is here in Australia and may have been working in childcare. It's information that's apparently come from one of Thompson's own relatives who doesn't have long to live.
Bill Edgar is the one making these claims. He's also known as the Coffin Confessor, revealing secrets for people after they've died. He joins us now on 10 News Plus. Bill, this is quite an extraordinary claim. What have you got to back it up?
It's taken quite an extensive investigation to actually declare that the contact made to me is actually a member of the family. And it's a case now of investigating her claims and whether, you know, the person is actually here in Australia and living as a woman. I mean, these are all, you know, possibilities at this stage, although I'm very close, and it takes time. But this lady hasn't got that much time left, so I've got to do what I can as fast as I can before it's her funeral. So, you know, and they're the things I do. So really it's about, you know, granting the wishes of the deceased.
How confident are you in this lady's information, and who is this lady who's giving you this information?
Well, I'm pretty confident now, knowing who she is. Unfortunately, I won't disclose who she is at this stage. It's not for me to disclose her details. I don't disclose any of my clients' details because it's, you know, it's not worth them being harassed, intimidated, and coerced prior to their death. After they're gone, yeah, maybe, but it's up to them. It's totally their choice.
What's her motivation? You said that you're trying to grant her wishes. What are her wishes? What does she want?
She never wanted them released. That was the whole thing, is that she never wanted the boys released after what they'd done. You know, she wants it out there. She wants them, you know, the public to know. Everybody on the planet's got a secret and a skeleton in the closet. Families have the worst. So, you know, if she wants to let it out, good on her.
Have you made enough inquiries into this information that she's given you, or seen enough proof that Robert actually came here? Have you managed to track any of this down to confirm any of these claims from her?
I've made enough inroads and grounds in my investigation to be warned by certain judicial parties not to disclose certain things because these characters have got, you know, it's basically they're not allowed to be disclosed who they are, where they are.
Have you passed any of this information on to authorities, particularly the suggestion that Thompson is working in childcare? This is someone who was convicted of killing a child. Absolutely.
And, you know, the authorities should know this and be aware of this.
So you have passed it on to authorities, sorry?
Sorry, say again?
You have alerted authorities?
Absolutely.
And are authorities looking into this? Do you know if they've made inquiries themselves? Are they taking it seriously, as clearly you are?
Well, I'd say they're taking it pretty seriously because of the, not the threats I'm getting, but more so the, you know, innuendo of being very careful of not overstepping the line, so to speak. But at the same time, you know, these people have anonymity. So, you know, even the authorities, some authorities have no idea who they are. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem, especially if they're working in childcare.
Has a family member that you've been speaking to, or sorry, the woman that you've been speaking to, have they been in touch with Robert while he or she has been in Australia?
not at all. No, they want nothing to do with them, although they're they're still in the family frame. They have a lot of support around them particularly. I've spoken to other members of the family, distant family relatives, some that will not go on record, some that are just fearful of their own lives because of what happened and what they actually did to this child. I mean, it was horrific, and people have not forgotten.
No.
Well, Bill, some extraordinary claims there, but if there is a shred of evidence or proof, and clearly you believe that there is, then it's something that needs to be looked into.
Yeah, it needs to go to the police.
Thanks for your time tonight, Bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he just said at the end of that, stay safe but die living. So, yeah, we won't get to know, because this guy's identity, or woman, if he's a woman now, their identity is protected. So I don't think we'll ever get to know. The only more information we'll ever get, if we get any, is if that person dies that the Coffin Confessor knows and gives their permission then after they die for what they know to be broadcast. But then would he be able to broadcast it? Because, you know, there'll be legal implications, because the guy's identity, Robert Thompson's identity, is protected. You know, all these perpetrators are always protected, aren't they? What about the victims? What about the families? What about the poor Bulger family? You know, Denise Ferguson, I think she's called now. Of course, she went on to have other children. She got other children, but it don't replace the one you've lost. You know, and how she must have felt that day. Could you imagine? You're there buying something in a shop, and then suddenly you turn around and your little boy's not there. We all know how, if you've ever had children, you know how quickly toddlers can just disappear in a moment. Imagine how that was for her to then be calling for him. Where's he gone? You wouldn't be able to believe it, would you? You know, awful. So, yeah. Makes me mad. And I was saying, for anyone who's just come in and they didn't see the beginning of this video, that's why I cannot cover this case. I have looked into this case. I couldn't even read about it. I couldn't read about the details. It's just too horrible. It's too distressing. It's disgusting what these boys did, and that they got given new identities and a new life. How, you know, I just don't agree with it. I'll never agree with it. You know, as I say, well, they weren't shoplifting, tortured that little boy, kidnapped him, tortured him, made him suffer for hours, essayed him, left him on the railway track to be chopped in half by a train. So, you know, so horrible, the crime scene, that the police were traumatised. You know, God knows how his poor mother felt. I just don't have any sympathy for him. I'm sorry, I don't. And then the other one, John Venables, he's not been safe, has he? You know, he's committed other crimes. You know, got involved in relationships with women with children, and then been found with PDFs on his phone, his computer. So there you go. But anyway, I thought you might find that interesting. I found it very interesting. I find the guy really interesting. I think it's, you know, what he does, you know, as I say, you believe him or not believe him, that's up to you, what he says. But I think it's a valuable service that he provides. And if people, I can see why people would want that service. You know, there's lots of things you might want a Coffin Confessor to, you know, go to your house, remove all your embarrassing items, make sure your mobile phone goes in the coffin with you, you know, be at your funeral and stand up and tell people to fuck off who you've never seen for years, and why are you even here at this funeral? You know, yeah, why not? Why not indeed? He's definitely an interesting character in my eyes. But anyway, I'd just like to finish off by saying a little prayer for James. I mean, you know, this is a 30-year-old crime, but it was one of the most shocking crimes Britain has ever seen. And of course, it reverberated across the world, not just because he was a little 2-year-old boy that was taken like that by these horrible boys who just whisked him away, planned it, You know, let's not forget, I have no sympathy for them. You know, don't think, you know, I hope they're suffering. Honestly, I do. Sorry. I can't find empathy for these boys. Might have only been 10, but 10-year-old boy, what they did to him, it was out, you know, just disgusting. So anyway, my thoughts are not with them. My thoughts are with that little boy up in heaven, hopefully, and also his family. They get a life sentence. You know, this is disgusting. Those boys were given new lives. John Venable's been given a new identity a couple of times and he's just thrown it away, all the chances he's been given. These boys were given new lives. James never got a life. And the family, they're on life without parole, aren't they? They're never, you know, they've got a life, but this is haunting them. It's, you know, looking over their shoulders all the time. You would never be free of it. Never. So, yeah, sorry. I don't have any sympathy for them whatsoever. I really don't. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you found that interesting. I think, you know, the guy is interesting, isn't he? And I'll see you really soon in the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you are a new viewer. Just pressing the like and subscribing is completely free. And if you want to see more videos like this, press the notification bell. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.